This is Mitchell Connolly for Alpha Crucius College, assessment free for Christian ethics. After studying Christian ethics this semester, I have gained a deeper understanding of the ethical structures and the framework in which they apply to the world, situations, and a Christian worldview. It has developed a greater sense of which ethical systems correlate with a Christian worldview and which could be lacking. I have chosen situational ethics to expand on this, as this is the one I have most enjoyed learning about, which I feel comes close to being syncretic with biblical Christian worldview. I'll expand on a brief history of situational ethics, the application of situational ethics, and how this has synergized with my beliefs and how I can apply that within my life and ministry. In the early 1900s, Joseph Fletcher developed a situational ethics theory with biblical terminology like agape, or God's love for man and man's love for God. However, many of his views challenged religious and Christian ideologies, but conversely, they also found agreement with many Christian views at the same time. Situational ethics are centrist to legalism, blind adherence to legal structures without situational sensitivity, and antinomianism in which individuals can do whatever they desire. With a theological lens, situational ethics, or situationism, seeks to be informed by the scriptural law, which culminates in the maxim to love one's neighbor. Love is complete justice, and justice is optimum love, resulting in situationism forming a coalition with utilitarianism. There are several strengths of situational ethics, including avoiding the dilemma of conflicting absolutes as in deontology, considering unique variables, focusing on the people in the decision-making process, and having a response for every situation to do the loving thing. In contrast to heteronomous ethics, in following external laws extend to a false view the significance of the biblical commandments, theonomous or governed by God ethics are God-centered and community-focused. Within the history of ethics, autonomous and heteronomous ethics have been identified as having positives and negatives. Situationism attempts to bridge ethical structures, the breakdown being that the self cannot be the arbiter of moral choice, and pre-designed systems are also inefficient. Paul Tillich, a German Christian philosopher, also in the early 1900s, supported the split of ethical structures into the foundation of theonomy. Within theonomy, agape ethics encompasses a personal and interpersonal experience concerning the individual, the community, and God. Ethics to Christians is theological. God's love as the center of all situations is the primary concern. We can find confirmation of this throughout the scripture in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible. Romans 13:8 says, "Owe no man anything, but to love one another have fulfilled the law." John 14:21, John 13:34-35, Leviticus 19:18, and Galatians 5:13-14 also confirm this. The primacy of agape ethics is the love of God and neighbor exemplified. The love of our enemies and personal intimacy is critical to agape ethics, which humanizes rather than dehumanizes situational decisions. When applied to professional and social issues, situational ethics gives us an understanding of the immense diversity when dealing with cultural, religious, individual, and corporate scenarios. It is not only the culture and the dilemma that alter an individual's response, but also the situation, and research show that individuals will alter their ethical beliefs when faced with personal financial hardship. It is essential to understand these deviations and diversities when approaching individual situations. Each calls for a unique approach to ascertaining an ethical stance, especially when these scenarios filter through a Christian and biblical worldview. Studies show that differences in ethical behavior depend on the sex of the respondent, strength of individual religious beliefs, and academic level. A pattern in that the strength of religious belief affects personal opinions of what is acceptable, but not what society or the business world will view as reasonable. The hypothesis of studies states that the sex of the person involved in the ethical questionable action would produce statistically significant differences. In psychology, dealing with personality and character, testing repeatedly shows that the behavioral expectations on standard theoretical personality constructs differ from expectations in the behavioral observation cycle. suggesting that situationist research can revise the foundations we have for our historical understandings of ethical thought. These results specifically identify revisionist qualities in consideration neo-Aristotelian ethical theory, which has been the predominant structure in moral philosophy for over 20 years. It is agreeable that situational ethics can run both congruent and opposed to Aristotelian ethical theory, also known as virtue ethics. The strengths lie in situational ethics' malleability and adaptability when dealing with situational intricacies. One of the significant strengths of situation theory is that it does not presuppose an end outcome. It considers individual situations and the broader impact of the varying associated results. Moving forward, I can now engage a full spectrum approach to situations in my life that require judgment, assessment, or an approach that requires ethical foundations. I can integrate the situational approach and understanding that each scenario we face demands a systemic approach and an individualized format. This depth is necessary as even the seemingly smallest of situations, beginning even at the level of the individual, have many facets to consider when approaching an ethical understanding. When expanded to a corporate, cultural, societal, or even creation-wide analysis, this becomes even more important as there are multitudes of variables to consider, and these more extensive ethical situations will generally bear more significance in the outcome. This knowledge, coupled with a primary focus on the scriptures, theology, and an understanding of the Christian worldview, will enable me to assess and act in situations that require my attention or leadership more effectively. Thank you.